Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
And a very good afternoon to you. Welcome back to the Locker Room on our Sunday. This is my last Sunday show for a couple of weeks because I think there's a World Cup on somewhere. So you've only got to put up with myself and Graham for the next 2 hours, and for the next 2 weeks we'll be on a Friday. No show on the Sunday. I don't know why people are so happy because we're not on a Sunday, but never mind. You can comment, as always, by going on to YouTube and Facebook, and you can use comment below on the video as well. And also you can follow us on Twitter, please, and comment at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. We're here until 5 o'clock. We're here to look back at the weekend's football action, and we've got a new feature on the show today. Yes, it's how the hell can we stop talking about VAR coming up in Scottish football? Well, let's not talk about it. Okay, but we must. So, Graham, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I had hoped that we would come on today and there'd be nothing major to talk about, but that was badly wrong because there's loads to talk about, and VAR is doing my head in.
Yeah, I think we should actually start a new show on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live as where is VAR gone wrong this week? Because absolutely terrible. Anyway, before I we get on to that subject, and we'll be here until 8 o'clock tonight. Good news so far for Scotland. Get Murrayfield, Graham.
Yeah, at the moment they are 17-14 up against New Zealand. Scotland were 14-0 down after 7 minutes, but they've come back really well. 33 minutes on the clock. Scotland 17, New Zealand 14. I'm just trying to see who the scorers for Scotland were here. Let me just have a look. So, Scotland. I'm just trying to see.
I think it was some guy, Graham, that scored, not you, because obviously you're here. But
we have scored 2 tries. Darcy Graham has scored a try. Finn Russell's bagged a couple of conversions. So at the moment, from 14-0 down very early on, Scotland 17-14 up against New Zealand side, who Scotland have not beat in 31 attempts. So it's going well so far, but stick with us because you never know what could happen.
Yeah, they might introduce VAR to rugby as well. Or I don't know if they got VAR in rugby, Graham. I'm not sure.
They've got they do have some kind of video assistant thing there anyway.
All right, okay. It's called Hurry Up. Okay, there's one place to start, and let's talk about football. Funny enough, because that's what we're here to talk about. Till 5 o'clock on Independence Live and Indie Live Radio. Obviously, there was all 6 games yesterday, Graham, because, as I said, there's a small matter of the World Cup, and it's a bit of a funny build-up to the World Cup because usually it's like 2 or 3 weeks and, teams play like warm-up games and all that. But a week today in the World Cup will be off and running.
I know. 4 o'clock, the first game starts next week. Ecuador against Qatar, the host nation, which is just mental. But yeah, it is very strange. We've got a World Cup in the middle of the season. But I think for some teams it has come at a good time. I think the break is needed to get players back from injury to kind of reset and recharge for the start of the kind of new season again. But yeah, it is a very strange build-up. We're used to World Cups being in the summer. This time's in the winter. And as I said on Friday, there's not been a massive build-up. It's not been as exciting as a lot of folk have probably hoped it would be. But I said on Friday again, when the World Cup comes around, when it gets a bit into the later stages, I'll be looking forward to it. And I've already got a few teams that I think could win this. But yeah, it's been a very strange build-up. And I think for a lot of teams, especially for Celtic, They're going into the World Cup 9 points clear. You know, they're on a very good run of form just now. So, yeah.
I thought you were going to say, Graham, yeah, I'm all set now. I've got my sticker book for the World Cup. I've not saw any adverts on the TV for did you ever used to collect the stickers? And I used to get annoyed because when I bought a new packet every week, I had the same sticker, but in the packet I've got the same sticker about 3 or 4 times, and it was a bit annoying.
I loved the Panini sticker album. They were great. I don't know if I think they still do them, but it's not quite as exciting anymore when you get to a certain age.
I think it's not sticker books now. I think it's apps now you get on your phone, because back in the day, and that shows you our age, that the internet wasn't really it was out there, but it wasn't very. Why are we talking about this for? This feels like skill game. Anyway, let's go on to the football, shall we? Yes, I think we will. St Mirren against Rangers was the Lanscombe kickoff yesterday, and St Mirren won, Rangers won, and that's St Mirren unbeaten now at home in 8 games now. So that's some going by St Mirren.
They're on a great run. As I said at the start, I didn't think Robertson was going to survive very long, because start of the season they were very poor, had a very poor Premier Sports Cup, but they've done really well. You know, they've taken points off both Celtic and Rangers at home. I think they probably deserved to take 3 points yesterday. Maybe a bit unlucky with the penalty, but this is probably one of the only games this weekend that hasn't had a massive VR controversy. Other ones have. But yeah, I think St Mirren were very good. I thought Jonah Ayunga up front was impressive. I actually thought it was a mistake taking him off when they did. He was causing Rangers a lot of problems, but they took him off. But St Mirren will be delighted with that. You know, they're sitting in a decent position, sitting 7th. I think they're quite happy with that. They look a real threat now going forwards. I said Ayunga and Curtis Main were really good. Defensively, I thought they were pretty decent yesterday. And yeah, I think Stephen Robertson's got to be delighted with that. I think, for me, I thought they could be in trouble this season, but they had a really good run of games, good run of performances. And yeah, I think they were a bit unlucky not to take 3 points yesterday.
Ayunga scored St Mirren goal in 47 minutes, and James Cavanier scored a penalty. I think that was only kind of VAR incident yesterday. And I heard a lot of people speaking yesterday about, did the St Mirren man need to make a tackle on Ryan Kent? But we'll get to that in a minute. Apart from the goal, Graham, obviously I guess saw the highlights last night, but apart from the goal, Rangers only made about 2 chances. Tillman had a early chance, and Scott Wright had a shot well saved by Clever Carson in the St Mirren goal, and that was it.
There's 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and Rangers penalty. But I don't think Rangers did create a lot yesterday. They had 75% possession, but didn't really do a lot with it. Again, I thought Ryan Kent was a little bit anonymous at times. He wins the penalty. It's good play. It's direct. Obviously, he was booked at first by the referee who thought it was a dive, but then VAR stepped in, and that's what it's supposed to be there for. That's those kind of decisions that need to be made. But yeah, I thought Rangers huffed and puffed, but didn't. I mean, it's not like the goalkeeper again was peppered with loads of shots. I think first half, Marek Tillman has a decent chance. I think Scott Wright's got a couple of decent chances. But apart from that, they weren't a massive threat. And I think the biggest issue for me, if I'm a Rangers fan, is Morelos. He looks massively overweight. And the worrying thing for me is he looks disinterested. I thought he was awful yesterday. His body language was so poor. I mean, Rangers basically played with 10 men yesterday because he was so poor. And I think Van Bronckhorst is under a lot of pressure. We said on one of the previous shows that if he doesn't win these next 2 games against St Johnstone and St Mirren, he's under pressure, and they've not won any of them. So he's got to be under massive pressure. Whether they make a change now that the World Cup's in, I don't know, but he's not getting a reaction out of players. And as I said, I think there was a thing earlier as well that there was a bit of a fallout between him and Glenn Kamara at half-time. So there's massive problems with Rangers in that dressing room.
I think there's a date for your diary there, Graham. I think it's the 6th of December. That's the Rangers AGM, and that's going to be one hell of an AGM.
I'll be surprised if he even lasts that long. if you're a Rangers board looking at performances and results, you've got to be worried. Celtic are 9 points clear and looking very, very good. I just don't see Rangers winning. I think the league's done. I've said this already. The league's done for me. Where Rangers go now, I don't know, but they need to do something quickly. People talk about Ross Wilson or recruitment. It's not been good enough, but the players in that park are not doing enough. I go back to 2 weeks ago against St Johnstone. John Lundstrom gives the ball away and doesn't track back. He just stops. I mean, that is poor body language, and that's not what you want for a Rangers player. You want them to be, if they give the ball away, fight and win it back. That's what Celtic do. Rangers don't do that. And again, I said that Morelos, his body language yesterday was awful. So they've got huge problems there.
Was it a penalty yesterday, gig them?
I said this to a few mates. I watched it 4, 5, 6 times, and I still wasn't sure there was much contact. I think the defender's daft to leave his leg in there, but I thought the referee was going to initially stick to his main reaction, which was to give a booking for a dive. It's very unclear. I mean, again, see on the second and third look, I thought Kent put his leg into a St Mirren boy, which makes it not a penalty. But again, it is very unclear to me if that's a penalty or not. But, VR looks at it, the referee goes to look at the monitor, which is fine, that's what it's there for, and he gives it. But again, I'm still not overly convinced that there was a lot of contact there.
And I think we should say that if the penalty was given, before the penalty was given, Kent was got a yellow card for diving, but because the VR gave the penalty, the yellow card was wiped away. So Ryan Kent didn't get a kind of yellow card. I think you're right. I mean, I did see the game live, and I saw it when they came back last night. And I still don't think the St Mirren man should have put a leg in, because he's done that, he's made the rest decision a bit more kind of easier, you would say.
It was good play by Kent. The one time he was actually quite direct and he took his man on. It was good play by him. He's not done that enough this season. And I don't think the defender has to make that challenge. You're 1-0 up. I'm not saying comfortable, but it's not like Rangers are creating tons of chances. So I think it's a daft decision, but it's good play by Kent. And, that's the example of VR working, where the referee goes to the monitor, looks at it, decides a penalty, and takes the yellow card away. That's fine. A good VR decision. That's one of the few times that's happened this season. But it's good play by Kent, but I think the St Mirren defender's just got to be a little bit more cute when he goes in like that, because it's a daft decision to make.
I think the shine of the performance by St Mirren sadly will be taken away because of the carry on at Rangers. Will Van Bronckhorst still be the manager or not? But I mean, if you look at St Mirren for a minute, Graham, I mean, as Stephen Robertson says, I mean, as we've been saying, brilliant job that he's done since he's come in, because it took him a few games for him to get St Mirren up to speed.
Yeah, he's done well. I think he's actually signed reasonably well. And again, I go back to, I thought Ayunga was causing so many problems for Rangers yesterday, and I was surprised that they took him off. I think it was like 71 minutes, and I thought he was kind of making a difference. So they missed his running power up front. And, I thought Ayunga was really good. I thought Curtis Main led the line really well. I just thought St Mirren all over the park looked really good. Mark O'Hara again was really good. I think there was a chance in the second half where I think he should shoot. He tries to lay the ball off, and you see the goal he scores of the night. Just have a shot. You're good enough. So I think St Mirren did really well. I think Robertson's done a really good job. Again, I think Robertson's one of these managers that a lot of folk don't really rate, but I think he's done a decent job there. And again, I go back to the start of the season. They had a really, really bad run. They had a really poor Premier Sports Cup campaign. They got beat 4-1 by Aberdeen at Pittodrie. So I think they've had a really good run of results. And as I say, they've now taken 3 points off Celtic and a point, which should have been 3, against Rangers at home. So I think the home force is going to be really important for them.
Our friend Gorgon's come in on Facebook there. Don't forget you can comment on Facebook or YouTube. He says, I don't think the replay show clearly enough who was to blame for the contact. Another dodgy one. And I think that we'll hear more and more of these comments now between now and the end of the season, Graham.
100%. It's half time in the game at Murrayfield, and it's Scotland 17, New Zealand 14. So Tynecastle and Killie went over for New Zealand in the first 8 minutes. Scotland were given a penalty try with Leonard Brown Sinbin for pulling down Hogg before Graham scored. Scotland have one win and one loss so far this autumn. So it's a good first half for Scotland. Can they keep it going? Hopefully, but that's a good first half so far. And apparently, it's been a really good game of rugby as well. So fantastic. But yeah, I just think, go back to that penalty. I just think the defender, as you've mentioned, is a bit clumsy going in like that. But as I've said already, I've watched that 5-6 times and I'm still not sure where the contact is made. So I think it's a very difficult one to judge. But listen, the referee does the right thing. He goes to the monitor, he has a look at it, and he makes that decision. He's made this decision, the penalty. That's fine, but I'm still not overly convinced it was, but that's the way it goes.
And that's how you got 9 minutes at the end of the game yesterday. And I think we'll come back to speak about this, Graham, because do you not think football is turning in American football a wee bit in terms of the time that the ref is taking to make a kind of, well, not that decision, but other decisions, a very simple decision?
Well, to be fair, the reason there was so much extra time was because Leon King went down and had to get taken off with concussion. So that's the reason that lasted as long as it did.
Yeah.
But there are other games, like, I know we'll get onto it, but the Hearts game yesterday, Josh Ginnelly scored in 7 minutes of injury time, and that's because of VAR. It's just these decisions are taking far too long. I've already said it. If a decision isn't clear and obvious after one or two takes, then it's not clear and obvious. I know we'll get to other ones as well, but the Celtic one is an absolute embarrassment. That's never a penalty. But, these decisions are taking far, far too long. It should be 1 or 2 minutes. It shouldn't be 5 or 6. And again, you've got fans in the stadium thinking, what's going on here? What's this decision getting made for? It's ridiculous that these things are taking so long. But, Leon King was injured, so that's why that game added on so much time.
Do you think that it's going to put fans going to football? Do you think it's going to put football fans going to football matches? And do you think it's going to turn away football fans in general watching football because it's going to take the enjoyment out of the game?
Some folk have actually already mentioned this that I've seen on Twitter as well. A lot of folk have said the same thing. See, I'm not trying to belittle it, but see if you've got like a bus to catch or a train to catch, you know what time it is, and you're missing that because VR is added on 10 minutes of injury or stoppage time because of a VR decision. That's not right. Gordon McIntosh says there should be a time limit on these VR. I actually agree with that. If you're taking longer than 2 or 3 minutes, then that's just a ridiculous thing. You've got all the monitors in that. I think actually Robbie Nielsen said that the studio is in Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you shouldn't be, you've got every camera angle there, or maybe not if you're Celtic at Motherwell, but you've got every camera angle there. Surely you look at every angle, and then within 2 minutes or something, you can decide, right, the referee needs to look at this, or you don't need to look at it. It's just taking far too long, and I think a time limit is actually a good idea. Put a time limit on these things, and if you've not made a decision in that time, then don't give it, because it's ridiculous how long these things are taking.
Yeah, no, that's a good comment that Gordon's making, and we'll come back to speak about the time limit, because I think that the game between, who was it, Graham, last Friday night, Aberdeen and Hibs, David Marshall was off his line, but the first time round, I think it was Aberdeen player, I can't remember who took the penalty, he missed it, but he saved the penalty. The ball went up the line of the park, and then about a minute and a half later, the ref pulled it back for a penalty because David Marshall was kind of like off his line. So there should be like a time limit on these kind of like decisions. So we'll come back to that, speak about it later. So what do you think about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst? Then do you think he'll stay or go?
Listen to his interview after the game yesterday. He sounded, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but he sounded like a broken man. He sounded like a man who already knows that his job's done. He can't get the best out of this team. So I think he knows that he's probably going to go. Now, whether he resigns himself, I don't know if he's that kind of guy or if he needs to get pushed. But I think at some point in the next few weeks, I think the decision will be made for him that he has to go because they're 9 points behind. They had an embarrassing European campaign. Now, I will go back to the fact they had a really difficult group, but to not get a point, to be pretty much really poor in every game, I think his time is done. Now, it does sound bizarre, the fact that they got to a European final last season, but they've not been anywhere near that level again. So I think in the next few weeks, I think he will probably be gone. Now, I had a mate out earlier on to have a look at my stepdaughter's car, as I mentioned, and he said, and I kind of agree with this, I think they might go and get Steven Gerrard back. Now, I don't know if that'll happen or not, but I think that might be what will happen. I think Gerrard might feel he's got unfinished business at Rangers. He's out of a job just now. So I wouldn't be surprised if Steven Gerrard goes back to Ibrox in the next few weeks.
What do you... Van Bronckhorst was asked yesterday after the game. He was unsure if he's still going to be the Rangers boss after the World Cup break. And the Dutchman insights, he doesn't feel that... that he will be sacked. Very interesting comments. But I said to you on Friday, Graham, that I was watching Joe's press conference and they were asking him about, will Moreira still be here? Will so-and-so still be here? And he says, no, you would be better to ask, you'd be better to ask a kind of like director of football, Ross Wilson. And I said to you at the time, Glenn, that was, I find that a bit baffling because surely if you're the manager, you should be involved in these kind of like negotiations as well.
I think I said on Friday, it's clear to me that Van Bronckhorst doesn't make the decisions. He's basically a puppet on a string getting told what he has to do. What I find actually quite baffling is the fact that he's not signed one Dutch player. Now, he must have a list of contacts from his Holland days that he could have gone and signed, and he's not done any of that. Now, I don't know if that's a Van Bronckhorst thing, if that's a Ross Wilson thing, but the fact he's not signed one Dutchman for that Rangers team, I just find a bit bizarre. But I just think behind the scenes, there's a lot going wrong at Rangers just now. And if Van Bronckhorst goes, I mean, they've got a massive job there because they're 9 points behind Celtic. The league's done for me. They potentially could win one of the cups, maybe even both, but they just look miles off. And again, yesterday they looked miles off it. And Alfredo, it's only not that long ago that people were talking about how much would Morelos go for. I wouldn't give you a pound for him now. He's just, he doesn't look interested. And that's a worry.
What do you think of the former Rangers striker's comments, Graham? Kenny Miller, he believes that the Rangers manager, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, made a mistake for not appointing somebody more in tune with Rangers in the backroom squad, i.e., I think he meant a former player. I mean, you just have to look at Neil Lennon with John Kennedy, and we know how that kind of worked out as well. But I would be interested to see what you say here, Grim, because to me, okay, if you're a club legend and come back, but that's not going to guarantee you winning a cup or winning a league or winning success to the football club.
I mean, is that Kenny Miller looking for a job? Or does that mean we can finally get...
Yeah.
Does that mean we can finally get Chris Boyd off Sky Sports, just put him in the backroom team at Rangers? I'll take that all day long.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
No, I mean, I can understand the point Miller's making, but I don't really think it matters. I don't think you need a former Rangers man there in the background to help him out. Van Bronckhorst is big enough and ugly enough to deal with these himself. I just think he's not getting a tune out of these Rangers players, and too many players for me. You can talk about recruitment as much as you like, but for me, too many players are not performing. They're miles off the pace. I think they really missed Antonio Cholak yesterday. They missed that presence up front. Morelos is not doing it. As I say, Ryan Kent's been miles off it. I think Malik Tillman has looked okay the last few games, but too many Rangers players in that team for me can't look in the mirror and say, I'm doing my best for Rangers. Too many of them are not doing that. And that is, I think, where the issue lies. Yesterday, Rangers got a goal down, and at no point in that game did I think Rangers could turn around and win this. I just don't think they've got enough quality.
And Rangers' first game after the World Cup, Graham, is a bit bizarre because it's their first night against Hibs at Ibrox.
They play Aberdeen as well, I'm sure, around that time as well. So they've got very difficult games to come up. This is where I think Van Bronckhorst, if he's still there, I'll be very surprised because these fixtures are going to get tougher. Aberdeen team are looking very good. Hibs are not great just now, but they can still be a threat. So there's massive issues at Rangers. And the fact that you're 9 points behind Celtic already, and we're not even at Christmas yet, that's got to be a huge concern for the Rangers board. And I honestly believe in the next few weeks, I think there'll be change.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I say, if there's going to be change or not, Graham, it doesn't matter. It's got to be some kind of AGM because Ross Wilson, if he turns up as maybe not hiding under the table, we'll have a lot of questions to answer.
He will have. I mean, recruitment's not been good enough. You know, you look at John Suter, for example, signed by Hearts. He's played probably 2 games and been injured the rest of it. That's kind of typical for John Suter. They kind of get him fit. Connor Golson again, they kind of get fit. I just think there's so many problems at Rangers now. We can talk about recruitment, you can talk about injuries. Rangers should still have a big enough and good enough squad to deal with that, and clearly they don't. The players are bringing in are not good enough. I've said it on Friday. If Scott writes the answer, what's the question? He's not good enough for me for Rangers. So they've got major issues. And I just think Van Bronckhorst has probably run his course just now. But what they do now will be interesting. That AGM could be very, very feisty because a lot of Rangers fans, and rightly so, are furious. Results have not been good enough. You're looking at a Celtic team who, again, were 1-0 down yesterday, but won the game. That's just what Celtic do. So there's major problems. And, I mean, there's no guarantee Rangers will even finish second. Let's be honest, Aberdeen could catch them. So there's no guarantee Rangers will even finish second this season.
Obviously, James, one of our colleagues on the show, has made a comment about VAR. We'll come back to speak about VAR when we talk about the Celtic game, because it seems as though that when we talk about a Celtic game, we always manage to... it's as if Celtic is sponsored by VAR now, because every game it's like, let's speak about this incident. I think there's been about 5 games since VAR's been introduced, Graham, taking it back to the Hearts game at Tynecastle, and every game has been involving VAR, including the Real Madrid games in the Champions League as well.
Don't worry, I've got some stats here that I'll tell you when we get to this, because I'm going to rant about VAR. Surprise.
All right. Well, we're on till 8 o'clock tonight, Graham, so plenty of time for that. So let's move on to the game at Parkhead yesterday. Celtic 2, Ross County 1. It wasn't Celtic's best performance in the world, but if I was a Celtic fan, I would say job done.
Update from Murrayfield: Scotland 20, New Zealand 14.
Blow the whistle now.
Finn Russell another penalty. So 43 minutes on the clock. Scotland 20, New Zealand 14. Fantastic so far. Long way to go, but good results so far. What was the question there? Sorry, I was listening, but we're trying to get the rugby score as well.
I was moving on to the Celtic game. Celtic 2, Ross County 1. Wasn't Celtic's best performance in the world, Graham, but if I was a Celtic fan, or if I was Postecoglou, I would say job well done for Celtic yesterday.
Yeah, and again, I thought Celtic dominated. Again, they were 75% possession, 22 shots, 7 on target. I thought Celtic were dominating the game. They just couldn't quite find that spark. I thought Ross County were doing well, frustrating Celtic, but it's all about winning. You know, especially at this point in the season, it's all about winning. And Celtic have done that. I've said already, even when Celtic went behind yesterday, at no point did I think they wouldn't win that game. That's just what Celtic do. And again, they managed to turn it around. David Turnbull scores and Haksabanovic scores again. But I thought Hatate was brilliant yesterday. He creates both the goals. The first goal, again, is brilliant feet. It's really good play. He takes about 3 players out of the game. Really good ball back. And fair play to David Turnbull, because he nutmegs Ross Laidlaw in the goal, which is not an easy thing to do at that position. So, yeah, really good for Turnbull. And Haksabanovic, again, a very, very good finish for the second goal. And I just thought Celtic got the job done. I think they were the better side, let's be honest. And they're 9 points clear. And at this point in the season, Postecoglou has got to be delighted. I heard him after the game, and he basically said exactly the same thing, that it's all about winning. And it is. 9 points clear. I've already said, for me, the title's done. I can't see Celtic losing this now. And 3 points in the bag with players out. Callum McGregor still to come back in. You've still got Maeda's going to be going to World Cup. I still can't believe that Hatate and Kyogo aren't, but that's another story. But yeah, Celtic get the job done, and they did deserve it. They were the better side.
Yeah, a very professional performance. But you knew before you went to that game yesterday, you knew what you were going to get with Ross County. What I always say is park 5 buses, bang the ball, and that's what they did.
They did, but when you go to Celtic Park, you kind of have to do that. As much as you want to try and play good football, Celtic are a completely different team to Rangers. You could probably sit behind the ball and think you might get a point or something out of that. Against Celtic, you very rarely do, because Celtic just keep coming forward and they've got so much creativity. So I never felt that, even when Ross County got that goal, which is never a penalty, but we'll get to that. I never ever thought Celtic wouldn't win that game. I knew they had too much quality to come back and win that game, and they did. And that's all that matters. Just get 3 points, and they go away to the World Cup now in a very, very strong position. I've said already, I think Celtic will strengthen again in January. They've already got a player coming in, a left back, I think it is. So I think they'll be even stronger after the break. And I just think they're going to be... I think Celtic could potentially win the league by 20 points this season. I just think they're so far ahead of Rangers in every way. And I just think they're going to win this league so comfortably.
Do you think that the World Cup break has came at a bad time for Celtic in terms of breaking that kind of momentum up, and now it's 5 weeks to the next game for Celtic, or could it work in the other favour? Could they come back and everything would kind of click into place?
I think it'll work another way. I think the Celtic players will be desperate to get back to action. I think the break will do them good. It will give certain players a chance to get back to full fitness. I'm sure if Celtic not got a couple of bounce games coming up as well.
They go over to Australia now, and I think their first game is on Thursday.
Yeah, so that'll give some of these Celtic fringe players a chance to get some more game time. So I think it's a good thing. But the main thing I think for Celtic is that the players that do go away, i.e. Maeda, Carter Vickers, etc., come back fit and healthy. But I think Celtic are, if they were maybe 2 or 3 points ahead, I think it might come at a bad time. I think they just want to get the game to play. But the fact they're 9 points clear, I think it's a really good time for players to get a break. I think every team needs this, some more than others, but I think every team needs this break.
Do you think, before we go on to James's point and Gordon's points as well, because everybody's talking about VAR, and by the way, we've introduced a new feature to the show, VAR, sponsored by Specsavers. Do you think Kyogo had another chance for Celtic yesterday, a big chance? Do you think his confidence is kind of went at the moment? I'm not so sure. I think it's more to do with his injury that he picked up. Was it last season up at McDermott Park, Graham?
I don't think it's injuries. I think every striker misses chances. Even the best in the world miss chances. I think he's getting the right positions. He's just maybe a bit unlucky, but he's still shown enough for me. And I honestly think he should be in that Japan squad. He's, for me, one of the best players in Scotland still, along with Jota. So I think, he's going to miss chances, but he's going to take his fair share as well. I think he scored, 10 goals this season? I think Kyogo's a fantastic player. His movement is great. I watch him numerous times. His movement is fantastic. He gets in between defenders. He's very hard to pick up. Yesterday's just one of these games. He's missed a chance, but I don't think it'll affect him. I think the next time Celtic play in a few weeks' time, he could bag a hat trick. He's just one of these players, I think.
After the game, Matt O'Reilly said that the VAR decisions won't be the outcome of Celtic season. So let's go on to speak about VR, because everybody's tuning in to see what me and Graham's going to say about VR. So yeah, what about the Ross County penalty, Graham?
Scandalous, embarrassing, ridiculous. I mean, how on earth can you give a penalty for that? What is Matt O'Reilly meant to do? His arm is down by his side. What is he meant to do? He can't get out of the way of that. I mean, every week now, these decisions are just getting worse and worse. I've said it before. If you're a striker, if you're in any position, I would just aim for the hand now, because it's a penalty every day of the week if you're going to do that. Yeah. It is never a penalty. I mean, O'Reilly can't do anything about that. His hands are down by his side. The ball deflects off him from what? A couple, or even not even a yard out. It's a ridiculous decision. Again, the same as the one was against Burnaby against United. That's not a penalty either. These decisions are just ridiculous. Now, I wrote the stat down because I found it quite interesting what I heard yesterday. So before VAR came in, there were 63 games. There were 17 penalties given. Before yesterday, VAR came in on the 21st of October. There's been 24 games and there's already been 14 penalties. Now, I can't go back to every game, but for me, this is before yesterday. You look at the Aberdeen one against Hibs, the Duke one, not a penalty. You look at the one against Burnaby, not a penalty. There are decisions that shouldn't be penalties, and there's decisions that should be penalties, i.e., as a Hearts fan, I've said this before already, I'm not going to be biased. The Michael Smith one is a penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These decisions are an absolute joke. It's like referees don't know what they're doing. For me, I've said this on Friday, now the World Cup is coming, get every official in a room and say, we're sorting this out, because this is ridiculous. Some of these decisions are an absolute joke. I've not even got to half the ones yesterday. There was once in the Hearts game, Hearts could have had potentially 2 penalties, and Alec Cochran should have been sent off. I mean, these referees are just making an absolute pig's ear of VAR. When it came in, we were told that VAR, we all know this, when it came in, we were told that VAR was going to be for clear and obvious decisions, and it was meant to help officials. It's helping nobody. It's an absolute farce. I hate it.
I think it's got worse, Graham.
Oh, it has. It really has. I mean, how can you... It's the inconsistency as well. Some referees are given things, some referees aren't. Some referees are going to the monitor, some referees aren't. You either all go to the monitor or you all don't. These are just ridiculous. These officials are making an absolute pig's ear of it.
Well, I mean, does it not tell you something when there's no Scottish refs going to the World Cup?
I mean, I would quite happily be a referee because I get paid for doing nothing, making poor decisions. I would do that. I mean, seriously, how on earth that can get given a penalty against Matt O'Reilly, who knows nothing about it, and he's like not even a yard out, and it's his hands are by his side. What is he meant to do? How can he get away with that? That's never a penalty.
The one Michael Smith, and that was week 1 of VAR. That feels like 5 seasons ago now. You don't need to go to VAR to check that, Graham.
I said it at the time. A player's reaction tells you everything. You look at Michael Smith's reaction, even he knows that's a penalty. And the fact that the referee at the time isn't even asked to go and look at that is scandalous. I just think these things are, it's ridiculous how bad VAR. I keep going back to the fact VAR is a technology. It's not the issue. It's the officials that are making these decisions. That's why I say every referee, now the World Cup is on, get in a room and sort this out, because when they come back after the break, it's got to be better than that, because it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
And then there was another penalty incident in the game. Celtic should have had a penalty in the second half, Graham. Don't know if you saw it in the highlights that the Ross County guy basically put 2 arms on the back of, I can't remember who it was, the Celtic striker in the box, and it was a clear penalty. And I was basically, and by the way, that wasn't even checked on VAR either.
this is the thing that annoys me. And again, I go back to Celtic against Motherwell, the challenge on Carl Starfelt. That's a shocker of a challenge, and he wasn't even booked for that. Again, how has that not been deemed a red card when a week before that, George Grant is sent off for Hearts for a challenge that, yes, it was hard, but it wasn't high, it wasn't late. This is the inconsistencies are an embarrassment. And I don't know what the referees were told when VAR came in. And I know that Ian Maxwell said it'll be horrendous for the first few months. It's been horrendous for the first few weeks. It's been an absolute joke how it's getting used. And you've got to be better than this because it's been so poor. Every week, it's awful.
And that was the first game I've seen Postecoglou being a bit annoyed because at half time you were getting a saw on the highlights, but at half time he waited for the ref to come off the park to speak to him. And I said to somebody next to me, that's the first time I've seen Postecoglou actually waiting for the ref to come off the park and show him and being a bit annoyed about that.
And he's right as well. I mean, again, okay, Celtic won the game, but these big decisions you're making are going to affect teams getting potentially a Champions League spot, a European spot, potentially
or even relegated.
Yeah, potentially relegated or top 6 place. These things cost money to teams. That's why these decisions have got to be right. We brought VAR in to help officials, and they're just making things 10 times worse. I mean, again, if you need to go to the if a referee in that room isn't particularly sure, then say to the referee on the pitch, maybe he should have a look at that and make his own mind up. But the fact that some referees seem to be getting called over, others aren't getting called over, there's no consistency. And again, the handball rule is an embarrassment. That needs to get sorted quickly because it's just making a mockery of the game.
Do you agree with it, Glenn? I mean, I didn't know this until a few weeks ago, but do you agree with the man that was in the middle for, say, like the Murrow game on Wednesday night was is on VAR duty the next game and for the exact same team? So I think it was it Willie Corman Wednesday night for the Murrow Celtic game? He was on VAR duty yesterday. I don't agree with that because I mean he made a mistake on the Murrow game, so why put him on the next game? If you know what I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, it says to me as though the SFA has not got enough match officials.
Bring in the foreign referees; they don't make as much of a mess of it. But I mean, I thought there was like a referees reviewing team in the stands watching referees' performances. If they're watching these performances, they can't be very impressed because we're watching these as fans thinking, how's that been given? How's that not been given? But for me, the biggest bugbear is the handball rule. I know we'll get to it later, but there's 2 handballs in the Hearts game. One I don't think is a penalty. One I think is. They weren't checked. So again, I mean, where's the consistency? It's an absolute embarrassment.
Well, I heard yesterday as well that it's is it the Caledonian? How's they call it? The VAR. But apparently, the man that's watching the game, like Willie Corm, he's got another official beside him. So they've actually got 2 refs watching the game, and I think they've actually got 2 or 3 monitors looking at the one game, looking at different camera angles as well, and they still can't make the same mistake. They still can't make a decision.
Robbie Nielsen nailed it yesterday when after the game he said the officials didn't have a clue what they were doing. Nobody had a clue what they were doing. And that sums it up. Nobody's got a clue what's happening. The fans in the stadium don't know what's happening. The people on the pitch don't know what's happening. It's just an absolute embarrassment. It's honestly got worse, and it's only been here since the 21st of October. This is why I think after the break, this is why I think the officials need to get in a room. They need to have a look at it and say, right, when we come back after the break, we all need to get in tandem here. We all need to make these decisions correct because this has been a farce so far. I mean, get on the same page because for me, it's been embarrassing. And I know it'll get worse. I know it will. But it's just been an embarrassment. That penalty decision yesterday, the one at the Kilmarnock game, is not a penalty either. These penalties that are being given are an embarrassment.
I don't know about you, but if some guy gave you I think it gives you like a decision not to have VR in Scottish football. I think by the game so far, I think you would say we won't use VR anymore because it's just embarrassing to the game. And it's not that, like other countries is watching Scotland and saying, well, look at them, they're making a mess of it.
I mean, we've not even got to their games yet, and this is where we're at. VAR is costing, well, it didn't cost Celtic yesterday, but it could have done. But these big decisions, I keep on going back to, these big decisions that are getting made, they're going to cost teams money if they miss out on something. So this is where you've got to get this right. But again, I keep going back to this. Matt O'Reilly can't do anything about that. Now, again, if I'm an opposition manager and my player's got the ball anywhere near the edge of the penalty box, I'm saying, do you know what? Hit it against his hand because it's a penalty.
Yeah,
that's the way. That's the way it's going.
Yep. No, exactly. Or yeah, big 3 point for Celtic going into the kind of like World Cup, and yeah, Posca called Giggsy after the game, Graham, like he done well because they were trying to turn it as if it was the VR, and he was trying to deflect from that, and he was basically saying, no, you've got to give credit to my team. You know, they've actually played well and worked out over the weeks.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to talk about VAR, but we kind of have to. But if you're Postecoglou, you've just won a game. You've kind of dug out in a way the fact you were 1 goal down. You want to talk about your team's performance and how good they were, and he's completely right. But this is the thing: every manager now is getting asked about VAR, and I think every manager's just thinking, "Please don't ask me. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask this." But that's the way VAR is just now. You have to get asked these questions when it's against your team as well. This is what I said weeks ago. If a decision gets made for your team, you like it. If it gets made against your team, you hate it. But right now, everybody hates it.
Well, I mean, as I said to you, I've never seen Postecoglou being a bit annoyed. He's always been a bit of a calm guy, and yeah.
Can't hear you. Hello? I think we're having technical issues.
And we're back.
Don't know what happened there.
Yeah. It's 5 o'clock. Time for us to go. Yeah, I'm sorry about that mishap there. I think most people will be saying, "Oh, that was better than the actual show, that part as well." But no, what I was saying to you was, Postecoglou's been involved in been in Scottish football for a season now, and that's the first time I've seen him really getting annoyed with him. And I think there'll be other managers getting annoyed as well before the end of the season. Robbie Nielsen's another one.
100%. You know, you're a football manager. You want to talk about your team's performance, but instead, or result, and you're having to get asked about VAR in every single game. So I can understand why he was annoyed. You know, it's not up to him. It's up to these officials to get these things right. But listen, it's a massive 3 points for Celtic. Going into the break, 9 points clear in a very strong position. Players still to come back. Haksabanovic is banging in the goals now. David Turnbull has got a goal yesterday. I'm pleased for him because he's a good player, but he's not had the best of times. And Rio Hatate, again, probably best player on the pitch. So, yeah, things are looking very, very good for Celtic. But VAR is another matter entirely.
Yeah, no, definitely a good win for Celtic yesterday and a good 3 points. As for Ross County, very quickly, Graham, they never really offered a lot to the game yesterday apart from scoring that kind of non-penalty, you would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, after the game, I know that Malky Mackay was proud of his team, rightly so. They put up a decent fight. You're never really going to create many chances at Celtic Park, and they had maybe a couple of half chances, but nothing major. But I think I'll be pleased with the performance. You're not going to be judged on results against Celtic at Celtic Park. They've had a decent run the last couple of games. They've won the last couple of games. They're they're sitting 10th. They've done probably okay. But I think this break comes at a good time for them. Again, they can refresh. look to the start of the campaign again. But I think so far they've done better than probably expected, given how poor they've been at the start of the season. So, yeah, I think Mackay's got to be delighted with that. They weren't embarrassed yesterday. They've got out with a 2-1 defeat. So there's a lot to be positive about for Ross County. I think they'll be absolutely fine this season. I think once January comes, probably bring a few more players in, but they're going to be fine this season.
And Celtic faces a difficult trip up to Aberdeen for the first game back, and Ross County is at home against Johnson on the 17th of December. Let's move on to Hearts, sponsored by Mr. Grim Duffy. Hearts, now I was thinking about this last night, Grim, right? As Hearts and Livingston a kind of derby in the kind of way. I mean, I know they're not beside each other, but I mean, Edinburgh and Livingston's not that far, well, not that far apart.
Well, if it's a derby, Liverpool probably got a better record against Hearts and Hibs too. There you go. I can see a point of it's kind of a technically a derby, but I mean, the league is so tight as well. We're only like, I think Livingston on 23 points, Hearts on 21, so it's a very tight derby. Put it that way.
I think I know what you're going to say here, Graham. Back to me. Remember that? So Joel say, "Shut up of your face."
I was thinking about the Chuckle Brothers. To you.
Right, yeah. So Hearts and Livingston, Graham, and that was again we're going to speak about VR in this game.
No.
There's a kind of pattern to the show. Do you follow? First of all, let's speak about the game, if we can. Shankland missed a brilliant chance at the beginning of the game.
He did. He wasn't quite at it yesterday. I think that was a chance he probably should have scored, at least hit the target. And I thought, obviously, I watched the game and I thought, just an update as well from Murrayfield, 61 minutes gone. It's Scotland 23, New Zealand 14. So Scotland doing well so far. Could this be Scotland's first win in 31 attempts against New Zealand? Still a while to go, but 23-14 for Scotland so far. So, I mean, I thought Hearts' first half were okay. We had a lot of possession. 73% possession we had yesterday. We dominated a lot of the ball. We had a couple of decent chances first half. Ginnelly has a chance again. I think he should do a bit better chipping the goalkeeper. But again, VAR again. There's one in the first half that wasn't shown yesterday. There's one in the first half. There was a definite handball for me in that first half that wasn't given. I don't even know if it got checked, but it didn't get given. There's another one later on I think probably isn't a penalty. But then there's also one where Cammy Devlin gets wiped out by the goalkeeper. Now, I know that folks say, the ball was, the ball was going straight to the keeper. I don't think it was. For me, that's a penalty. Devlin gets wiped out. That's a penalty for me. That doesn't get given. So that was frustrating because I think VR's missed two, a penalty for a handball and the Devlin penalty. Second half, Hearts didn't start well. It's a really poor goal to lose. A long ball over the top. It's good control by the boy. I think it's Newbley, that does it. Plays it into Stephen Killie. Good finish. And after that, Hearts huffed and puffed. Didn't really create a lot. And then the red card comes. And it probably is a red card for Kyle Rowles. But again, for me, Joe Newbley gets a shot away. So there's not a lot of advantage there. Because Newbley gets a shot away anyway. So Rowles gets sent off. And after that, actually, Hearts did okay. Created a couple of decent chances. Again, Shankland probably should score. And then I think later on, I think there's another penalty. No, Stephen Killie misses the penalty, sorry. And Hearts have a chance after that. And I'm thinking the game's done. But again, if you look at the last probably few minutes, Hearts have a few decent chances. Keeper makes a couple of great saves. To be fair, that keeper was actually quite good yesterday in the second half. And again, I'm not going to be controversial. There's late on in the game. So 96 minutes, I think it is. Joel Newbley is pushed from Toby Sibbick. I don't think there's a lot in it. Newbley's a big laddie. He tries to stay on his feet. There's no penalty given. I get that. But in the build-up to our goal, Alan Forrest handles the ball. So that probably should have been a taken back, and it should have been not a hard score from that. It shouldn't have been given. Now, I think when the play carries on, Alan Forrest puts the ball in the box, it bounces back, Ginelli hits it, great finish. But Ginelli doesn't celebrate. And I'm convinced he doesn't celebrate because I think his goal's going to get chalked off. Now, I can understand why, because Alan Forrest does handle it. So, again, there's a lot of confusion. I'm watching the game. There's a lot of confusion because I don't know if the goal's been given. Because the referee has his finger in his ear. So I think VR is going to chalk this off. He then goes and talks to Robert Nielsen, who's obviously coaching the pitch. At that point, you're 2 minutes in, and I still don't know if the goal's been given or not. 3 minutes goes. I still don't know if the goal's been given. And eventually the goal is given. We're in the 98th minute, and the full-time whistle goes. Nobody in the stand knows what's happening. It's just an absolute embarrassment again. And again, as a Hearts fan, I will say this, Alex Cochrane should have been sent off. We should have been done to 9 men. It's a very, very poor challenge from me late on in the game. I don't know how that's not given. I've seen some Hearts fans say he gets the ball. I'm sorry, even a Hearts fan, I'm not going to say he gets the ball. It's a poor challenge. It's a red card. So there's a lot of decisions in this game. And again, Josh Ginelli in the second half was pulled down, as it's shown on Sportscene yesterday. No penalty. So I think Hearts could potentially have at least 2, if not 3 penalties. None of them get given. So again, the officials have not done their job right. And actually, I have to agree with somebody that said this. Greg Aitken, the referee, seemed to play the whole game with his finger in his ear, waiting for VAR. Again, shambles, absolute shambles.
Do you think that, obviously, I'll come back to talk about the game in a minute, but do you think that the shine has been taken away from like football fans and football players when they score a goal because they don't know how to, they don't know when to celebrate, if they're going to celebrate in 10 minutes time or half an hour time? And do you think that the ref actually enjoys a bit of power in the game because people actually come away from the game not speaking about the game but speaking about the man in the middle? Is it as a kind of, as Angie Postecoglou says weeks ago, is it a theatre now?
I think the German has been sucked out. I think you're absolutely bang on. I think every goal now, whereas before, when you scored a goal, you were celebrating. Now, any goal you score, you're thinking, I need to wait just to check it's not going to get chalked off. That is ruining the game totally. That's why Ginelli doesn't celebrate, because I think he genuinely thinks the goal's going to get chalked off. And it probably should have been for the handball from Alan Forrest. That was 3 minutes that took for that goal to get given, basically. And that is an absolute shambles. You can't celebrate. No. And yeah, I think every referee now is making it about VAR. I think referees now don't give decisions because they think VAR is going to sort this out. That's not what it's there for. Make a decision, and if it's wrong and if it's right, then VAR will check it. But honestly, it's sucking the joy out of it for me. Yesterday, I was watching the game thinking, I can't celebrate because I don't know if it's been given or not. It's a shambles.
See, if we make a mistake in the job, Graham, we would get the P45. But the frightening thing is the person watching VR is getting paid brilliant money for making stupid mistakes.
I just don't know how a referee on the pitch can make a poor decision because he's not got the benefit of replays. They've got the benefit of every replay in that VAR room. So how can you still get these things wrong? I mean, someone needs to explain it to me. How can you still get that wrong when you have the technology that help you? It's ridiculous you're still making these decisions. I can understand the referee getting things wrong because he's on the pitch. It's 90 miles an hour. But you've got the benefit of replays. How can you still get these things wrong?
We need to speak about, obviously, we speak about VR on the show of the week. We speak about Craig Gordon every week as well on the show. Brilliant save he made in the second half, Graham.
He made a few. He's been a little bit off form recently. I don't know why, whether it's just obviously age catching up with him, but he's made a few mistakes. Yesterday he was back to his best, a couple of brilliant saves. And that penalty, now it's not a great penalty by Stephen Kelly, it's in the middle, but fair play to Gordon, it's a great save. And again, it went to VR because they were checking if he was off his line or not. He wasn't. So again, that was another poor decision. But yeah, I thought Gordon was back to something like his best yesterday. And again, I've heard him say as well that he's told Steve Clark he wants to play till he's 50. I would love that. I mean, he's just a he's a great goalkeeper. Every keeper makes mistakes. He made a few recently, but yesterday he made some great saves that kept us in that game, because without him, we lose that game yesterday.
Yeah, no, I'm just checking there. Stevie Clark and said that Clay Gordon can play at the next World Cup, and the goalkeeper is 43.
Yeah, 23-17 in the Scotland game now.
Oof.
New Zealand coming back into the game. We're on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, Scotland 23, New Zealand 24. They've just scored a try.
They're coming back. Oh.
Yeah, Scott Barrett's just scored a try. So 67 minutes gone. Scotland 23, New Zealand 24. Oh, that sucked the life out of it. Call it off. Get VR and call it off.
Yeah, VR.
Yeah, I mean,
offside. Oh no, you can't get offside.
I mean, Craig Gordon is making. I mean, he's making history by playing as long as he is. He's just a great goalkeeper. I would love him to play in the next World Cup or Euros if Scotland can get there. But he's just a. They always say that goalkeepers mature with age and they're like a fine wine. I think he is. But, you know, yesterday he was great. He was back to his best yesterday. And when he did that first half, he made a couple of good saves as well. But second half, he made a couple of brilliant saves that were needed. And yeah, he's been great for us. He really is. He's probably the difference between finishing third and finishing not third.
I was going to ask you something about the game as well, Graham. Do you not think it's a bit concerning as a Hearts fan, not talking about the game in Wednesday night there, but the last two Hearts games, Hearts has been down to 10 men?
Yeah, there is a bit of that. I was thinking that earlier. It's been a bit of a discipline. Again, I can understand the red cards. Again, yesterday, Kyle Rolls, it's a daft mistake to make. It doesn't need to make that challenge.
And by the way, they were both red cards, Graham.
Yeah, they were, but I think yesterday, Kyle Rolls has been great for us. It was great to see him back, but I just think it's a daft challenge to make. You know, Kyle, there's not a lot of space for Joel Newbley to get that shot away, and Gordon's going to save it anyway. I don't think he needs to make the challenge, but yeah, there is a bit of a lack of discipline. And again, I just think yesterday, you know, there wasn't enough for me from Barry Mackay again. I love Barry Mackay, but again, yesterday he wasn't doing enough. Shankland had a few chances yesterday, but again, didn't take them. So there is a bit of this is why I think the break's come at a good time. I think Hearts need this break. We need to get players back, like the boys. Like, it was good to see Halkett back on the bench yesterday. That was good. But we need our other players back. We'll obviously have Boyce and Birmingham still out for a while, but we need to get players back. So the break's come at a good time. And, you know, when Carrell's come back for the World Cup, he's got a bit of a break now because of that red card. Maybe that's why he did it. Another longer break.
I was going to say the Matt's statistics after the game, the high game for fouls, because 9 fouls to Hearts, 10 11
And only one yellow and only one red card.
And only one red card, yeah. And about 5 VR, maybe, talking points.
Greg Aitken was awful yesterday. He really was. As poor a refereeing display as I've seen for a long time, he had no control of the game. He wasn't letting things go. In some instances, in other ones he was. It was just a very, very poor refereeing display. But the officials have been awful this season, let's be honest, even with VAR. But I thought, I mean, for Livingston, again, I keep saying it, Joel Newbley was great yesterday. He ragdolled us quite a few of the times. He's a very, very good player. I mean, for a big laddie, he's got a great touch. He uses his strength well. He's got pace. He's a handful. I just think he's too good for Livingston.
And you must fancy your chances after the World Cup. But in saying that, Kilmarnock won yesterday. You've got another home game against Kilmarnock.
We've got 2 games when we come back. They're both at home. One's a game in hand against St Mirren. We have to be looking to win those 2 games. And again, that's the disappointing thing yesterday. We were at home, and as much as we dominated possession, we didn't really create enough, and that's a concern for me. So that's why I think the break comes at a good time. We need Stephen Humphreys back as well. That physical presence up front, we lacked a bit of that yesterday. That's why, for me, and I know some Hearts fans don't agree with this, I would put in a bid for Joel Newbley in January. I think he's the type of player that Hearts could do with. He's the type of player that I thought Uche Piazzu would be. I think Joel Newbley's a very, very good player. He's a good footballer as well, and he causes a massive, massive threat to teams. I would happily, if Hearts could sign him in January, I'd quite happily take that.
Yeah, no, he is. He's a good player and he's a handful as well. Because Livingston has got an eye for a player like that. Because they had Dykes before he went to Queens Park Rangers, was it? And he was a bit of a handful for teams as well. So there's something about Livingston sending kind of hagmen.
You know what you're going to get with Dave Martindale. He sets his teams up very well. They're very hard to beat. They give him everything. And actually, yesterday after the game, is probably the angriest I've heard him about VAR after the game. And he was right. The decisions he's talking about, he was absolutely spot on. I can't disagree. So even he's getting frustrated. You've got Postecoglou getting frustrated. You've got Robert Nielsen saying that officials don't know what they're doing. Everyone is just getting really frustrated. It really is. It's an embarrassment.
And then you've got Gio saying, "Will we stay or will we go?" Livingston's got a hard game when they come back, letting if it's at home against Dundee United, Graham.
Is that a hard game? I mean, no disrespect to Leo Fox, but is that a hard game?
Possibly not.
I think Livingston will fancy that. I really do. I think at home they'll fancy that. Livingston, as I said, they're a good side. They're sitting fourth for a reason. They're a very, very good side. They're very, very hard to beat. They're hard to break down. They know what they're good at. You know, they use Joe Newbley's strengths quite a lot, which, you know, that's what they have to do. And I think Bruce Anderson didn't start yesterday. I think he's been a good signing for Livingston. He's a good player. So Livingston have got a lot of positives about them. Jason Holt, the middle of the park, was really good. Stephen Kelly was really good. So they've got a lot of good players in that team, and they get the best out of them. And that's all you can ask. And there's a phrase that gets bandied about that hard work beats ability. If ability doesn't work hard, Livingston have got hard work in abundance. And that's why they are where they are. They're a very, very good side.
But I mean, I remember when Gary Holt was a manager as well, Graham. Livingston was still a good side.
They are. I mean, they get the best out of what they've got. I mean, we say this quite a lot, that it's a shame that they don't have the fan base. There's probably a lot of Celtic fans. There's probably a lot of Celtic fans, Rangers fans leave to go Ibrox from Livingston. That's a disappointment because Livingston have got a really good stadium. I know a lot of folk look at the pitch, it's not the best, but they've got a really good stadium there. I've been to Tony Macaroni a few times and the Spaghetti Had, I love it. It's a really good stadium. It's a decent place to get to. And I just think they've got a very, very good team there. And the Livingston fans that go must be delighted with what they've seen with their team. But I just wish they had a bigger fan base because that's the only thing that lets them down, I think.
And I would recommend the macaroni pies as well. But we'll move on from that and we'll speak about this game. You were talking about artificial parts, Graham. We're going to be talking about the Kamal 1 Hibs nil. Surprise! This was a surprising result. Big win for Derek McInnes, but not a lot to write home about in this game. I kind of take notes when I watched the game last night, and you were lucky that I wrote 2 lines about this game, Graham, because there was nothing to really get excited about. But the Kilmarnock fans wouldn't mind that long as they get the 3 points.
I think both teams had 1 shot on target. You know, it's not. I watched the highlights and Hibs huffed and puffed. They had a lot of possession again. I think they had like 15 shots off target, only 1 on target. They huffed and puffed, and I think Melkison was caught offside in the first half. Again, it was very, very marginal, but I think he was just offside. But there wasn't a lot in the game, and I think there wasn't a lot of quality in the game. Now, as you've mentioned rightly so, all that matters is just 3 points. Livingston got them that. Kilmarnock got them. That was the biggest surprise for me. I said on Friday I thought Hibs would win that game because I didn't think Kilmarnock had enough quality. And the penalty, again, I'm not convinced that's a penalty. I really think it's a contact sport. There's nothing in that for me. I don't think it's a penalty. I think Kilmarnock are very, very fortunate. But again, Hibs huffed and puffed and didn't really blow the house down. I just think there was a real lack of quality, but for Kilmarnock, that's a huge 3 points because I do think they're going to be in trouble this season. I've said it before and I'll stick to that. But it's a huge, huge 3 points for them and Derek McInnes. But again, it's just there's a real lack of quality on sides from both teams.
Armstrong scored the penalty for Kilmarnock. Give Do you think that the break has came at a bad time? Again, I know I was talking about Celtic earlier on, but in terms of coming out, right, they won the first game for a wee while at home, an important one, and now they've got about 5 weeks to sit about till they play Hearts. Do you think they would rather play a game next week or in midweek? But this World Cup break has maybe just came at a bad time for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're McInnes, you want a game now so you can try and build on that. But I do think the break probably comes at a good time for them as well. I think they needed that win at home. Again, Kilmarnock, I just don't see enough quality about them. I said this on Fred, I don't see enough quality about them. They don't score enough goals. They got the penalty yesterday again, which I don't think is a penalty in my opinion. But fair play to Daniel Armstrong. He has to score. He sticks it away really well. And I think it does come at a good time. You know, it'll give McInnes a chance to kind of regroup a little bit. For me, they need more signings in January because there's not enough quality for me. I said on Friday again, they really miss Kyle Lafferty being out for these 10 games. I just don't see where they're going to get goals from unless it's a penalty. But it's a huge, huge 3 points for Kilmarnock. They needed them. They go into the break a bit more positive than they might have been. But again, as you said, it wasn't a lot of quality on show yesterday from either team.
What do you think of Lee Johnson's comments? And obviously, as soon as I say that, Graham's got a big smile on his face. But what do you think of his comments, right? Because he says after the game, I'm almost annoyed with myself for not using Kevin Nisbet in any of his previous 3 matches. I don't know about you, Graham, but he shouldn't have said that.
Well, I mean, it depends how fit Nisbet is. If he's fit enough to play, then he probably should be fit enough to start.
But why come out with a statement like that? I mean, if you're thinking that, keep that in-house, but don't come out to the media and say that. Because you know what the Hibs fans will be like now? They'll be blaming Lee Johnson for not giving him a game.
Do you know, I found recently that sometimes Johnson comes out and you think, why are you coming out with that? Some of the things he comes out with are a bit strange. If I'm a Hibs fan, I'd be thinking I wouldn't really be coming out and saying that, but listen, he's a manager, can say what he wants. But again, the Kevin Nisbet thing, I mean, I think they have missed him badly. Again, I don't think Martin Ball's been particularly fit either. So I just think for some of the comments he comes out and says, I just think keep that in house. Don't come out and say it in public because you just make yourself look a bit daft. But if Nisbet is fit, he should be playing because Hibs lack a natural finisher. Melkison, for me, isn't up to the standard, I don't think. So I think they really miss Kevin Nisbet playing. The sooner they get him back, the better. Again, I think this break comes at a good time for Hibs as well. So I think this break comes at a good time for a lot of teams. But, you know, Kevin Nisbet for me has been a huge, huge miss for Hibs. The sooner they get him back, the better.
And I think if Nisbet wasn't for the fit, Graham, just bring him on for about 15, 20 minutes from the bench. You know, he doesn't have to play a full game.
Yeah, it's gone a bit wrong for Scotland. 77 minutes gone.
Oh no!
Scotland 23, New Zealand 31. So New Zealand have pulled away. Their quality is shown, unfortunately. So yeah, disappointing after such a good performance from Scotland. But 33-21 with about 3 minutes to go.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if Kevin Nisbet's fit, he should be playing because he's Hibs' best and only real option for striker. So I think if he's fit, he should be playing. But again, this break comes at a good time. They'll get him back, hopefully, maybe not for mine like him, but they'll get him back fully fit. And when they come back after the break, he'll probably be starting, I think, because he's Hibs' best option at the moment.
Yeah, so a big win for Kilmarnock. And they were talking about last night on the TV. I don't know if you saw it, Graham, that it's Lee Johnson's job under threat.
I don't think it is. I mean, I know they're sitting 8th. Performances have been okay, but again, it's a results-driven business. But I think if they were to sack him after what they did with Sean Maloney and Jack Ross, it would be a little bit tin pot. You know, he's still got a lot of improvement to do. We know that. The signings at the moment, I'm not particularly convinced, but I think he needs longer. I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to kind of build for the back and get Hibs playing proper good football. But when you don't have the players to do that, maybe go back to basics a little bit. But I think I don't think it's under pressure. I think it's too early in the season to say that. I think after they come back for the break, if they're still losing, then maybe look at it again. But at the moment, I think it's too early for him. I think it's too early to sack him.
Obviously, come out after the break, as I said, that away to Tynecastle, and Hibs has got a very difficult game against Ibrox. Or do you think it's going to be a very, on paper, it should be a very difficult game going to Ibrox, but we know what happened yesterday with Rangers at St Mirren. I mean, knew what happened the other week against Livingston, Ibrox.
Strangely, Hibs seem to do okay against Rangers. I don't know why. They seem to have a decent record against Rangers, so it could be a difficult game. And again, this is a game that you would think at Ibrox Rangers win, but that Hibs team, and if Martin Ball's fit, the pace that he's got, if Kevin Nisbet's back, they could cause Rangers a lot of problems. So that's nowhere near a foregone conclusion. But again, a massive, massive game for both. But I think by the time that game comes around, Rangers might have a new manager in charge, to be honest.
Maybe that's why Regan Scavens has not been on for a few weeks. He's hanging a CV in. But no. Let's move on to another game that was a bit disappointing in quality, Graham. St Mirren, St Johnstone 1, Motherwell 1.
Yeah, not a lot of quality on show. I think it's probably a better point for St Johnstone. I know they're at home, but I think the way they've been going recently, the form's been decent. So I think Callum Davidson deserves a lot of credit. You know, they're up to 6 in the league. Now, if you'd asked me that at the start of the season, I would have thought, nah, no chance they'll be in the top 6. So fair play to Callum Davidson. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of quality on show. The first goal, great play for David Wotherspoon, really good feet, good finish by Dre Wright. The equaliser, free kick for Blair Spittle, but it's deflected. But after that, there wasn't a lot between the teams. I think possession was like 50-50, so it shows you how tight the game was. But, I think you've got to say St Johnstone have been very, very impressive recently. And I keep going back to this. I'll say it again. The signing of Nicky Clark has been a huge, huge improvement for them. He's given Stevie May a lease of life that he didn't have before. I think the signing of Ryan McGowan has really helped. The experience of Andy Considine has really helped. So I think St Johnstone have done a very, very good job. The last few games have been very impressive. So I think if you St Johnstone going into the break, top 6, I think Davidson would have snapped the handball for that at the start of the season.
It's been a decent week for St Johnstone, you would say, as well.
Oh, it has been. Results have really picked up, and none more so than that result against Rangers that last week. A huge, huge result. So, yeah,
nobody saw that coming, Graham.
No, absolutely not, and especially Jason Brown scoring his first goal the way that he did. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of positives that St Johnstone could take for this season. As I said, start of the season, I thought they might be in trouble. So, fair play to Callum Davidson. As I said again, fair play to the St Johnstone board for sticking with Davidson, because it would be very easy for them to say, nah, this isn't working now. They stuck with him. He's got results. Fair play to Davidson, sitting top 6. Absolutely fantastic. And yesterday, it wasn't a great performance. It wasn't a great game. But a point out of that, I think they'll take that all day long.
Me and you always speak about on the show of the week, why is David Martindale not brought up when there's a job vacancy in Scotland? But you could say that the same thing about Cam Davison as well.
No, 100%. I think Davison's done a very good job. He's got St Johnstone 2 cups. They were into Europe. A lot of folk look at that and say, are you going to do any better than that? With St Johnstone, probably not. And this last season, they were very poor. They looked like they were going to be relegated. This season didn't start very well again. That's why I thought they might be relegated. But to be in the top 6, signings have been really impressive, none more so than Nicky Clark. To be in the top 6 going into the break, to be on the back of a decent run, I think they've done a fantastic job. So, yeah, Callum Davidson is a very underrated manager. Mm-hmm. And I think there'll be a lot of teams now that if a manager gets sacked, Ibrox, there'll be a lot of teams now thinking Callum Davidson could do a good job for us.
And do you think it's because that when Martindale and Davison's not been put away with for the job vacancies at clubs as well, do you think it's because the clubs that they're at now, i.e. Livingston and St Johnstone, and most people say, well, the they're not kind of like big teams. Do you think they overlook the kind of football clubs?
Probably. I mean, they're not exactly glamorous teams, are they? But I mean, St Johnstone, Livingston, example, they know what they have to do. They know their budget. They don't have a lot of money to spend. They've got to get the best out of what they can. And if they can be like bargain basement signings, like not cost a lot of money, then they've got to do it. And, Nicky Clark, for example, has been a great addition to St Johnstone. What a massive difference he's made. And he's scoring goals. On you go.
No, I was just going to say, do you think that will be the difference for St Johnstone making the top 6 this season, Nicky Clark?
I think it will be, and I think that's what he's got at Stevie May as well. Stevie May's got a new lease of life now. He looks a lot better.
Yep.
And I just, Ryan McGibbon again has been a really good signing for me. An ex-Jambo. I know what he's like. He's a very, very good player at right back. Again, I keep going Andy Considine and the experience he's got. And I think they've now got a formation that suits them. The players look like they know what they're doing now, whereas at the start of the season, I got the impression that they didn't really know what they were doing. So I think you've got to give massive credit to Callum Davis. And St Johnstone are not a glamorous team. But then you look at what the potential could be. You look at the fans they had for those 2 finals, the COVID Cup final they couldn't go. But you look at the fans they had at the European game against Galatasaray. McDermott Park was sold out. I mean, that's not happened for ages. So that's the potential that St Johnstone have got, but it doesn't happen enough. And if you get a team in the park that you can be proud of, and I think St Johnstone have got that now, surely that should bring the fans back. I think they've done a really good job.
Do you think, as well, without going on my high horse about this, do you think that when they show St Johnstone games and Livingston games on the telly and Hearts games as well, and the away fans actually sell out the McDermott and the Livingston Park more than the home fans, do you not think that would be a bit embarrassing?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, how often do you see it that Celtic Rangers fans have about 3 stands at these grounds? And, as a home fan, that shouldn't really happen. Listen, it's money in the bank, money to these teams that they might not get otherwise. But I just think St Johnstone have got a good team on the park now. They're sitting top 6. And, if you're watching that game yesterday, St Johnstone Motherwell, that's not one you'd expect to be on TV. But again, you look at the fans and the ground's pretty much quite sparse. There's probably championship teams who get bigger crowds than that. And that's a bit of a disappointment. But I just think St Johnstone have done a really good job this season. And if they can keep that going after the break, they could potentially finish top 6 this season. And I didn't think I would say that at the start of the season because they looked like they were going to be in trouble again.
St Johnstone's got a difficult game when they come back away up to Ross County, and Motherwell has got a home game against St Mirren after the break as well. Let's speak about Motherwell, Graham. What a goal, what a free kick.
Full time at Murrayfield, Scotland 23, New Zealand 31. So it's now 30. It's now 32 attempts, and Scotland still can't beat New Zealand, but the performance was a lot better today.
Nearly, but no cigar.
There was 17 minutes to go when Scotland were ahead, and they just couldn't quite close it out. So yeah, disappointing. But the performance, I think, has got to be a good thing for Gregor Townsend to get that performance against a very good New Zealand team. There's a lot to build on, but disappointing that they couldn't hold out, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, the Motherwell free kick, it's a deflected goal for Blair Spittle. But again, Motherwell, they've had a kind of frustrating season. I think there's a lot to be positive about. But again, I go back to this every week. You say the same every week. The reliance on Kevin Van Veen is a bit too much for me. If he's not scoring, they don't really look like they're going to score. So yeah, I think Motherwell will go away for that game yesterday thinking that they could have taken 3 points, but a draw at McDermott Park against a St Johnstone team has been going well. It's not the end of the world, but Motherwell for me need a few more signings in January because I don't think there's a lot of quality in that team out with probably Blair Spittle like Kevin Van Veen, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we do say that every week in the show as well, and these are the type of games that you would be hoping like Van Veen would step up to the plate to score a few goals.
Yeah, I mean he didn't really get a lot of chances yesterday. To be fair, I think he was kind of feeding on scraps, but I just think Van Veen has pace. He's got a good finish on him. He's a good touch on him. But they rely on him too much. Louis Moult's come in. He's maybe not had the effect that they hoped he would. Maybe still getting up to fitness. Connor Shields, for me, potentially isn't good enough for the Premier League, but we'll soon find out. But I just think Motherwell need a few more signings in January. I think losing Tony Watt was a huge, huge blow. So yeah, Motherwell have got a lot of work to do, I think, in January. But I think Stevie Hamill has steadied the ship a little bit. Alexander was doing let's be honest, a very poor job at Motherwell. I think Hamill's coming in and done a decent job so far. He's not a manager of a lot of experience, so I think he's done okay so far. But Motherwell at the moment, they're sitting in a decent position, but they need to strengthen in January, I think, because they've not got enough quality going forward for me in that striker area.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you think it's a case of the honeymoon period is over for Stevie Hamill? Because when they came in, they were picking up results, but now it's kind of like putting in decent performances here and there, but not kind of like getting the wins. And that's back to what we were saying about a kind of goal poacher.
Yeah, they do lack that. If Van Veen doesn't score, you just wonder where the goals are going to come from. I think defensively they're okay. Midfield, they probably could do with a couple more quality signings in there, but it's that forward area. They need to strengthen that forward area. Louis Moulters, I go back to, he's a good player, but he's not up to fully fitness yet. So they need to get him up to full speed. Again, that's where the break comes at a good time. You've got plenty of time now to get him up to full speed, get him back in the team. Against Hearts, they were okay at times, but again, they just lacked that clinical finish. So I think Stevie Hamill's got a bit of work to do in that January window, but again, I think Motherwell will be fine. Where they'll be top 6, I'm not convinced.
No, it doesn't look like it. And another team that's struggling for points is Dundee United. That was a 6:00 game last night. I presume that game was on American TV or something, Graham.
Yeah, I think
because
it was, yeah.
Why was it a 6:00 kickoff? But again, there wasn't a lot to write home about in this game either. Aberdeen won, Dundee United 0, but what a run Aberdeen's on at the moment.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, Duke got a penalty against Hibs. It wasn't a penalty. This one, it was a penalty. Mark Birighitti, it's a daft challenge. He doesn't need to make it. But fair play to Duke. He does really well. He's got a lot of pace, that laddie, and a good finish from Majolski from the penalty. Aberdeen again.
And sorry, Graham, to interrupt. And that's the difference between what VR, quick decisions, because that penalty last night was a definite penalty. The penalty 2 weeks ago against Hibs, that wasn't a penalty, yet they took about 20 minutes to come up with the decision. But when you see the decision, you know what I mean? So it's consistency.
That's what I keep talking about. Yesterday was an example of VAR in that Aberdeen game working really well the way that it should. Didn't take too long. It was very clear it was a penalty. That was absolutely spot on. No issue with that. But the other ones, we do have an issue with because you see how long it takes and you see the inconsistencies. So, yeah, I think Aberdeen, again, they didn't really cause a lot of problems for United yesterday. They had a few decent chances, but, Aberdeen, again, they're in a good position, sitting third in the league. They're looking decent at home again. Away form, they have to change because their away form is not great. But, I think the thing for Jim Goodwin is win games. Just keep winning, and that's what they're doing. United, I actually thought it was positive for United yesterday. I think Liam Fox will be happy. The second half, they played really well. They had a few decent chances. Kelly Roos has to make a couple of really good saves. So I think United can look at the second half as a positive. But again, there's just not enough quality in that United side. But again, another chance for Liam Fox to go away and, recharge the batteries to come back after the break. But I think the second half, Liam Fox can take a lot of positives for that game. But the one thing he can't take is any points. So that's a concern.
Fletcher again, Graham. I don't know about you, but I know he's getting on a wee bit, but it's not kind of like where they set the header. I like when they came to Dundee and they could get him again yesterday. He missed a few good chances. Even Gus could get a point.
He missed a great chance in the second half. Dylan Levitt puts a great ball in and he stretches for it. I think he should do better.
Yep.
Yeah, he should do better. But again, every striker misses chances. The fact he was in there in the first place was good movement, but you've got to be hitting the target with that. You've got to be scoring that. And that would have given United a point that, I think they deserved on the basis of the second half, because I thought second half they were the better side. They created the chances. Aberdeen kind of held on a little bit, but they just didn't take those chances. So there's a lot to be positive about for United in the second half, but the game lasts 90 minutes. You've got to do that for the whole game. So again, Liam Fox, it is an experiment. Whether it's going to work, I don't know. But again, I've already said I think United are going to go back down. I think United will go down. I just think there's a bit of there's not enough quality in that side for me. So I think they could be in trouble again this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Miggle missed a chance as well, Graham. But I mean, weeks ago on the show, we were talking about Jim Goodwin going up to Aberdeen, and we were talking about is it a risk for Aberdeen, and he never really got off to a kind of good start. But I mean, I think like most people will be eating kind of like humble pie at the moment, because he's actually building something special at home, but it would need to work in the way for him.
Yeah, I mean, away from home, they just look a completely different team than at home. But the thing about Aberdeen is, I think what I like about Goodwin is he's brought pace into the team. Duke's quick. They've got Matty Kennedy. They've got Leighton Clarkson. They've got a lot of quality in that team. I think at home, they look very, very impressive. They look a really good side. They look a team that's going to score goals. Maybe not yesterday, but they look a very good side. Away from home, they are very inconsistent. They look vulnerable. I don't know why, what the difference is. So I think that's the thing that they've got to change away from home, because if they can be consistent away from home and then build on that home form, they're going to be a very good team this season. I really do think they are. And I think they're 8 points off Rangers. So there's not a lot in it. And I think you've already said they go to Ibrox after the break. So if they win that, they cut the gap right back. So that's what I mean. There's no guarantee that Rangers are going to finish second in this league. So Aberdeen have got a really good chance to finish second if they can just get that away form sorted.
Oh no, they play not Rangers, Graham. Celtic, that they've got the first
Celtic
game after the break. Yeah.
Oh well, forget that then. They're getting nothing out of that.
Yeah. Well, you might have to wait a while, Graham, before they go back into Ibrox. But yeah, So yeah, Celtic play Aberdeen, and Dundee United, as I say, away to Livingston. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, you wouldn't fancy Dundee United going there, especially the form of Livingston's in at the moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this league at the moment is very competitive. You've got quite a few teams that could finish top six. You've got quite a few teams that could finish third. I keep going back to it. Livingston have had a really good season so far, sitting fourth in the league. They are a very, very good side. So, I mean, I don't fancy United against Livingston, but you never know. There's been some strange results this season that I didn't expect. So, anything could happen. But Livingston, I just think they're looking a very good side just now, and I just don't see United picking up points. So, yeah, I'm looking at the league table. I've got it in front of me here, actually, because I wrote it down. You've got from Aberdeen in third, they're on 25 points, to Hibs in eighth, they're on 20 points. So it's such a tight, kind of compact league in that way, which is great. I quite like it.
As a Hearts fan, Graham, obviously we're going to speak about the give the locker rooms halfway point next week on the show. But I mean, Hearts are sitting fifth, right? And from a Hearts point of view, do you think Hearts fans would take that at the moment?
Some people are, some people aren't. I'm kind of half and a half. I think it could have been better, but it could have been worse. I think the one thing I would look at is the fact that we've played a lot of games. We played European games. We played Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. We played a lot of games. And I think the fact that we are sitting only, is it 3 points off Aberdeen? 4 points off Aberdeen. I think I would take that. There's as I said, when we come back after the break, we've got 2 home games, which we have to win. We get 6 points out of that. It's a good start to the kind of second part of the season. So I think if I was going to give this season a review if I was going to give it a mark, I would probably say about a D. I think we could be better. We could have been worse. The injuries have not helped. There's probably about 5 or 6 players that would be starters if they weren't injured. So there's I think the fact we're sitting fifth and we're not out the third place, I think I've got to be pleased with that. But there's a lot of things that we need to work on. I say this every week. the performances against the Old Firm have got to change. You know, Wednesday against Rangers was disappointing for me. I don't think we did enough in that game. We didn't create enough. Whereas you look at St Mirren yesterday, a completely different mindset. They thought, you know what, let's have a go. And that's what can happen. So that's got to change. But there's a lot of folk who are not happy about the fact that we drew with Livingston yesterday. Now, I put on Twitter yesterday that the fact that we're down to 10 men, the fact we're 1-0 down, and the fact we got a goal in the last minute, I will 100% take that. 1 point's better than nothing. So there's a lot of Hearts fans, again, are still on the side of Robbie has to go, which I don't agree with at all. But that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. But we have to go back after the break, and we have to win these 2 home games. You know, you have to win your home games in this league for me. And especially against Kilmarnock and St Mirren. No disrespect to them, but you've got to win these games. If we win those 2 games, then we've got United at Tynecastle after that, which is another game that I think we should be winning. We've got a very, very good chance of still finishing third in this league. So, yeah, I would give it a D at the moment. I think it could be better, but it could be a lot worse.
And that's it, Graham. And the good thing about the not having football for the next 5 weeks in the Premiership is there's no VR chat. Yes. But in saying that, VR should have been in action in Friday night's game in the Championship, Graham, because that the ball was over the line in the Hamilton Ayr United game.
I don't think it was. I don't think the full ball was over the line. I did see it. I don't think the full ball's over the line for me. It hits the bar and comes out, and the whole ball's got to over the line. For me, I don't think it was. Now, I think, has every referee not got a wee thing on there, a wee watch or something?
A wee arm, yeah.
Yeah, that goes off if it goes over the line?
Yeah.
I personally don't think it was over the line from what I've seen. Maybe I'll be wrong, maybe I'm corrected, but I don't think it was the whole ball was over the line from what I saw.
Final score in that game, Hamilton 2, Ayr United 3. What a score. What a story for Ayr United if they get promoted this season, Graham. A long way to go, but I mean, you know, they're up there, so that they're doing well.
I mean, the Championship's a great league. It really is. I mean, looking at the results for the weekend, Hamilton 2, Ayr 3, Arbroath 1, Cove Rangers 1, Dundee 2, Raith Rovers 0, Morton 2, Partick Thistle 1, another defeat for Ian McCall, and probably the biggest result for me, Queen's Park 2, Inverness 1. That was a huge result. Ayr United are on, so looking at the league table, Ayr United are top on 28. This is where it gets interesting. Morton are on second on 25, Dundee are third on 25, Queen's Park are fourth on 24, Raith are on 22, Inverness are sixth on 22, Partick are seventh on 20, Cove are 8th on 17, Arbroath are 9th on 12, and Hamilton are propping up the table on 11 points. I mean, it's not looking great for Hamilton, but that top of the league is looking so compact. You know, Ayr United on 28 points. What a season they've had so far. I think if you asked anyone at the start of the season, could Ayr United win the league? People would have said no. They could easily win this. It's been a brilliant performance from them, and I keep going back to this guy again. I've said to Dave as well, Akinyemi up front has been an absolutely brilliant player for them. 2 goals on Friday. He's looking probably the best player in the Championship for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's going to be some story for Ayr United, but there's still a long way to go as well.
There is. I mean, we're only not that long into the season, but to be sitting on 28 points already, to be sitting top of the league, and looking very strong as well. And that Akinyemi up front just looks an absolute unit. He's a very, very good player. If he can stay fit and performing the way that he is, I think Ayr have got a great chance of winning the league. I still think there's potentially 7 teams could win this league. Anyone could win this league. So it's very, very tight. Again, Partick Thistle, I think that's 5 games in a row that they've not won, but they're still with a chance to win in the league. So it just shows how tight this league is.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the thing about the locker room is we're not going to have a break. We're going to be back next week for the Championship. And there's some good games coming up, Graham.
Yeah, I've not seen the fixtures for next week. But I mean, the Championship's probably the best league in Scotland for me. It's just so tight. There's so many teams could win this league. Disappointing for me is Arbroath. After last season when they were so good, they're looking like they're getting relegation trouble, which is a disappointment for Dick Campbell, because I'd love to see him in the Premier League, but unless he gets an Rangers job, that might not happen. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a competitive league. Again, you're looking at Dundee under Gary Bowyer.
I mean, imagine him speaking about VR, Graham.
Oh, I would love to see that. It'll be brilliant, wouldn't it? But I mean, looking at Dundee sitting third in the league, Gary Bowyer's done a decent job there. They could win the league. Queen's Park sitting fourth, they could win the league. It's such a great league. It really is. And I just think for me, Ayr United at the moment are setting the pace. And if they could win the league, Ayr United in the Premiership would be incredible. It would be like our Broth last season.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm just going to run through the next week's championship games. Obviously, we'll speak about them next week in the show. Cove Rangers is at home against Glenmorton. Dundee against Hamilton. Inverness against Ayr United. So a difficult game for Ayr going up to Inverness next week. Packet Thistle against the Bluff at home. And Wraith Rovers is at home against Queen's Park.
Yeah, the Wraith Queen's Park game stands out for me. Both having very good seasons so far. I think Wraith at home, though, potentially could win that. I think I heard as well last week that I think Lewis Vaughan had been out for so long. He said numerous injuries. So I think he's back, which is great for Wraith Rovers. Queen's Park, again, we spoke about them on Friday. They've had a very, very good season so far. That was a big win for them yesterday, winning 2-1 against Inverness. So that game stands out for me. Inverness against Ayr. I mean, again, that's a huge game up in the Highlands. A big game for Ayr United. If they could win that, that really would set the technical credentials for me. So there's a lot of good games next week. But for me, that Wraith Queen's Park game stands out for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, what about Dundee yesterday winning 2-0 against Wraith Rovers?
Yeah, it was a big win. A penalty. Robinson scored both goals. One a penalty. Zach Robertson, I think it is. So yeah, a massive win for them. Disappointing for Wraith Rovers, but they'll bounce back. I said they're only about 6 points off the top. So that's why this league is so good. It's just so tight and so competitive. Anyone can beat anyone, and that's why it makes it such a great league. But a massive 3 points for Dundee at home. So yeah, a huge 3 points. But it's just such a great league, and the fact that we're going to be talking about this next week, we'll have full focus on the championship is brilliant, I think.
I was a bit surprised to see on Friday night. Obviously, my ignorance of me again, not concentrating in the championship, but Hamilton is sitting bottom of the table. Graham, that's hard to believe.
They've had a terrible season so far. You think of Hamilton, Alec Neil, you look at James MacArthur, all this talk that they've had about how good the youth product is at Hamilton. They are one of the teams that do give youth a chance, but they've had a very poor season so far. There's a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but they are really struggling just now. Again, a disappointing defeat on Friday at Hamilton, to Ayr United, but again, it was late on. Probably positive to take from them, but it's another defeat. So yeah, Hamilton have got a lot of work to do, but Hamilton and going down to League One would be a huge blow. They've got a lot of work to do. I really feel sorry for them because they are a good side, and they do promote youth, but they're just having a really poor time of it just now.
And I mean, Packet Thistle, Graham, I mean, do you think they'll get out the bottom half of the table? Because at the moment they're sitting 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said that's about 5 defeats in the bounce. It's a letdown for Ian McCall. I don't know where the problems lie because they started the season really well, but again, they're still winning. They're only points off the top, so there's still a long way to go. But they've got to start picking up wins somewhere. They're losing too many goals. Again, they lost 2 goals yesterday, and again, one of the surprises for me, F.B. Ambrose going to Morton, and he's actually looking a good player. He's actually looking quite a good player now. I never thought I'd say that about F.B. Ambrose, but there you go.
Yeah, no, I saw the game. What was it last Friday night? They were playing Inverness, and F. Ambrose was a standout. And I mean, you're making it big when the Morton fans are chanting your name through the whole game.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing that they are shouting your name either. Usually, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but Wraith Rovers, Wraith Rovers are sitting 5th at the moment. Do you think a lot of people will still have it in the back of their minds about the carry on about David Googworthy and Raith Rovers signing them and John McGlynn being the manager and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Raith Rovers, but they let themselves down badly with that. That was a massive disappointment for everybody and an embarrassment, to be honest. The way it was all handled, the way that John McGlynn came out. Again, I had a lot of respect for McGlynn when he was at Hearts, but again, that was a huge, huge letdown. You know, you saw the folk that left Raith Rovers because of that. That was an absolute scandal. I don't think they've really ever recovered from that. There's still a lot of things in the background about that. A lot of folk are not happy. Performances on the pitch, yeah, they've been fine, but there is still that thing in the back of your head that that's what Raith Rovers are about now. You know, the fact that they did sign David Goodwillie, that was such poor judgment. It was such a bad call. So yeah, I think there's a lot of focus.
And that was another thing embarrassing for Scottish football, Grim. VR and also signing a kind of man should technically be in the jail.
Yeah, it was a huge embarrassment. You know, everybody for Raith Rovers was. I mean, there was a lot of folk that left Raith Rovers that loved the club, but they left because of that. And you know, I applaud them because it was the right decision. But for the Raith Rovers board to think it was a good idea, for John McGlynn to think it was a good idea, and then to say that he didn't think it would cause that much of a furore. I don't know how. I mean, seriously, how can you get that so badly wrong? And yet it was a massive letdown for Raith Rovers, and I don't think they've ever recovered from that. They maybe never will, because when you think about Raith Rovers now, that's the one thing you think about is the fact that they signed that man. They shouldn't have done it. I
mean, going back to the league, Graham, if I said to you at the beginning of the season by November, Ayr United will be sitting in first place and Greenock Morton will be sitting in second, you might be laughing at me, and you might. I mean, if you didn't see the league table, you would think, well, Hamilton would be up there or thereabouts or Packet Thistle, but that's not the case.
Yeah, that's why it's such a great league. I mean, Ayr United top of the league, Morton second. It's been great. I initially thought, if you'd asked me at the start of the season, I would have said probably Dundee and Inverness. Now, they are still in there, but the fact that Ayr are sitting top of the league, and it's not a... Somerset Park's one of these very old-fashioned stadiums. It's not an easy place to go to. It's a really, really tight, compact stadium. Hearts played there, and we found it difficult. So it's a difficult place for teams to go. And again, they play at the strengths. You know, Akinyemi has been a great signing for them. Again, I don't think they'll hold on to him a lot longer. He's too good for that league for me. So yeah, Ayr United are a very, very good side. And the fact that they're sitting top of the league and they just look a very, very good side. They know, again, what they're doing. They know their qualities and they play to their strengths. And it's a great, great thing for Ayr United. If they win this league, to be playing against Ayr United, to be playing against Celtic or Rangers next season, or Hearts or Hibs would be incredible. I would love to see it. There's a long way to go, but it would be fantastic for Ayr United.
Yeah, no, and I'll be looking forward to talking about the championship games over the next few weeks. But the disappointing thing is, Graham, because the World Cup's on, there's no championship games on the TV.
No, that's the thing about Friday nights. It's been quite good to have the Friday night championship games on, and now we're not going to have that. But I mean, I hope though that it will give. See, the one thing I kind of think is now, see, like teams that now don't have games on because the games are finished for the World Cup. I'm hoping that fans might now go to some of these championship games just to get a fix of football. I think it would be great to get like big turnouts at these championship games. I think that would be great. Whether it'll happen, I don't know. But I think it would be great to get more fans through the door. People that maybe wouldn't go and watch these games normally. Now there's no football on. Go along. Go along and see your team locally. It would be great to get these fans in the stadium.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you just have to get the other week as well, where you had the Scottish Cup. You had, was it Porlock against Annan? That was a brilliant game of football.
It was, and that's... A lot of these little league games can actually be really good games. They actually, you think about it and you think that's not going to be a great game, but then it ends up, it is a really good game and the standard's really good. Like round here, I support Tynecastle Athletic. They're my local team. I've been along to see them a few times and the standard's actually quite good. East of Scotland, it's a good league. It's competitive. You see a lot of decent stuff. So now that there's no games on for me, for Hearts, I can go along and watch Pennycook. So and I could take my laddie along. It's cheap. It's decent football. So yeah, I think it's great to kind of build these teams up and go along to some of these games now that there's no top flight football on.
Am I not right in thinking Port's got Ayr United again in that ring of the Cup, the Scottish Cup?
Right, they do. I think there's some decent fixtures actually in the Scottish Cup. Should be some decent games actually. So yeah, I think it's the fourth round that the bigger teams comes in. I thought it was the third round, but it's the fourth round. These bigger teams come in.
Yep. I think is it not before Christmas or the beginning of next year?
I want to say it's the beginning of next year. I think it is.
Yeah, I think that the only good thing about it's having the World Cup this year, Graham, is A, it's disappointing Scotland's not there, but B, you don't have to sit about for 3 weeks after Christmas waiting for the football to be back because there's no winter break this year.
Yeah, I didn't like the winter break, but then again, you know what's going to happen, don't you? We'll come back after the break and games will get called off because it's snowing. That's what will happen.
Yeah, but they might pick it to VR, Graham.
Nobody will know what to give if they do that. No, you can play on that. It's fine. No, we can't. Yes, we can. No, we can't.
Well, do what Bobby Madden done years ago. Remember, talking about Bobby Madden, we'll speak about him in a minute. But remember, years ago, Rangers had a game at Ibrox against Hearts, and it was snowing, and it was you could basically see the park wasn't playable, and he started the game, and I think it was like 20 minutes into the game, and they thought, we need to cancel the game. It's the snow in the park.
One of the few games Hearts actually played well at Ibrox and the game got called off. There's a shock.
Talking about Bobby Madden, we spoke about this very quickly on the show on Friday. Joey Barton was up against Scott Brown yesterday in the game. And guess who was the man in the middle? Yes, Bobby Madden.
Yeah, I heard about that. I don't know the actual score of what happened in that game, but that was interesting. The Scott Brown and Joey Barton rivalry.
12,000 was that the game? That was a capacity.
That's pretty impressive, to be fair, for a Scottish guy and a guy that obviously didn't take the Scottish football particularly well in Joey Barton. That's a pretty good turnout. And
I think Joey Barton, believe it or not, gets sent off.
Surely not.
No, surely, and because Joey Barton's at Briscoe City and Scott Brown's at Fleetwood Town, and they are 17th and 15th in League One. So yeah, but I mean, imagine that, Graham. A lot of people would be taking interest in that game if they were like a Celtic or Rangers fan to see how Scott Brown and Joey Barton's doing in that game.
I've actually got a mate that him and a few of his other mates and that actually go to Fleetwood very occasionally to watch the games. And then I've got a mate that plays for them, and it's a decent standard. So I don't think they were there yesterday, but I mean, yeah, to see Joey Barton against Scott Brown with Bobby Madden in the middle, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to see if I can find the score while we're still on there. But yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting to see the two classing again, but also Bobby Madden as well.
It finished 2-2. Actually, there's a bit of a story for you. So, keep it on the Scottish theme. Fleetwood actually were 1-0 up. The scorer of the first goal was Sean Rooney, ex-St Johnstone player.
Ah, yeah.
They were 2-1 down, and in the 99th minute, Sean Rooney equalised the game. So Sean Rooney scored both goals.
So there you go. The Scottish man makes a headline in English football. You don't hear that every day of the week, Graham.
99th minute of the game.
And I take it. I'm sorry I can't live this, Chris, man. I take it when they scored in 99 minutes, they played Nina and 99 red balloons.
Boom, boom.
Sorry.
I like that one.
Well seen, it's coming to the end of the show.
End of the series.
Yeah, I'm going back inside after this. Don't worry. So we won't be here for the next couple of weeks screaming the Friday on the Sunday, sorry. But we'll be here on Friday looking at the Championship and some lower league games as well.
I could do a World Cup review myself on a Sunday just to keep it going.
Yeah, no, telling about the World Cup. Not to make anything about Buggy jealous, but we've got a very important game this week against Turkey.
Yeah, I don't know if it's one I really want to watch. It's not a particularly great game. I mean, to be honest, I'll probably will end up watching it because it beats watching anything else like Coronation Street. But it's not a particularly high-profile game. It is a friendly. It means nothing. And again, I think I said on Friday, the squad selected, there's no real. I would be more excited if there was a few more different players in it and a bit more experimentation. But the fact that he's kept the full-strength squad for a meaningless game, I just think it's pointless, to be honest.
Do you think there's more to come in terms of Stevie Clark and Celtic? Because Postecoglou said none of the Celtic players are going to Australia because it's not an official window.
No, and I think it's probably a line drawn under the sand now. I can understand why Postecoglou hasn't let them go. But again, I said on Friday, I can understand why Steve Clark wants the Celtic players there because they're big players, especially like the Greg Taylor and stuff. But, it is an end of nothing game. If this game meant something, if it was competitive, then fair enough. But it doesn't mean anything. This is why I would have liked to see a few more players given chances in that Scotland squad to see what they're capable of. But the fact that he's picked up pretty much a full-strength side, I don't see the point.
No, exactly. I mean, I suppose for me, it's not a competitive game, but I suppose that if these players want to step up to the international market, it would be a good chance for them to get 90 minutes under the belt and put a decent performance in as well.
Yeah, but I think we speak about the fact that there's too many games getting played just now. Sorry, I'm just trying to plug my laptop in. There's too many games getting played just now.
The Invisible Man, Duffy.
But I just think it's not a competitive fixture. That's why I've said on Friday that I think these Nations League games have been really good because they're competitive. But the fact that this game's a friendly, and I'm sorry, no disrespect, but the fact that it's Turkey, I mean, seriously, you could have played a bigger team than that. So I just don't see the point.
Turkey for Christmas.
We could be turkeys for Christmas after this.
Yeah, exactly. So, 5 weeks without football on the Saturday, Graham, it's going to be a bit weird.
Yeah, it will be. I'm not going to lie, I'll be keeping an eye on the World Cup. I want to see who wins it. I want to see England get knocked out as soon as possible. I'll be intrigued into the group stages, maybe not so much, but when it gets a bit further on at the tournament and it starts to become clearer who's got a chance of winning this, I'll probably get more interested. So, the World Cup starts next Sunday at 4:00, Qatar against Ecuador. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's a decent game, but I just think the further it goes, the better it will be, I hope.
And you might think, like, Matt Hancock will be out of I'm a Celebrity before England kicks off. That would be very nice.
I've been watching it, and he's been getting every single trial.
Every challenge, yeah.
Which I do understand why, but he's been winning.
But they're doing that on purpose, Graham.
I know, but he's winning every trial. He's not bothered. So why keep voting him? I do get why people are doing it, but he's winning every trial. It's not like he's scared of anything. But I think he's made an embarrassment of himself because he was talking about, I'm in here for forgiveness. Sorry, ridiculous. You shouldn't be in there in the first place. We all know that.
And I'm not sure if he spoke about dyslexic once, but never mind. Leave that to another show, because what he was saying was, I'm going into the jungle to promote dyslexic. Now, I've been watching that like you, Graham, but I don't see him talking about dyslexia once. But so let's move on for that subject very, very quickly.
Who'd have thought we'd go from Championship Scottish football, a Scotland game, to I'm a Celebrity? That took a quick turn.
but we can get away with this in this
Well, we
station.
can,
That's
we
what,
can.
yeah. No, exactly. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit weird to see the World Cup on at Christmas when you're doing your Christmas shopping. And I can't believe I went from I'm a celebrity at Christmas as well, but it just goes to show you. But okay, thanks, Graham, for joining me again today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your comments. Of course, we will be back next Friday at 5 o'clock without big chip. So have a good week, and we'll see you soon here on Indie Live Radio on Independence Live.